We're
Hello.
live.
The topic is a continuing conversation. If you didn't check that one out, you can go to Access on Instagram. And we're talking about Are You Listening? Which is funny that we're talking about Are You Listening?
What?
I was like, wait, did I freeze?
No. I'm just making a listening joke,
I like it. So here we are. It's no secret. Gary Douglas has a telecall starting in a couple of days called Are You Listening? And here's the secrets. It's not a secret because I'm talking about it. Andrew had a conversation with Gary in a class recently, the manipulation class. Is that where it started, maybe?
I think so. No, I think it was before that. There was another, maybe.
Somewhere.
Well, it was the class before. What was the class at the
Home of Infinite Possibilities?
Maybe? I feel like there was a class before it. It all bleeds together. I'm sorry.
Okay, so it's all together.
We should have rehearsed our shtick before going live, Megan.
We should have had our script ready and our scheduled talking points.
Yes. Or at least know what class we're going to reference. So a class. Let's just say a class.
A conversation.
A conversation a couple months ago.
Somewhere in time. And well, I won't go into it, but it inspired the topic of Are You Listening? And we'll get into why. But yeah, let's just go. So what did you, first of all, I guess, like, do we want to announce that you are autistic? Should we announce that? Or
I like do we want to do this, Andrew? Say yes or no.
Wasn't prepared. My spiel wasn't prepared. So I'm talking
so part of it was we were talking about the conversation I was having with Gary is there's all these different, I don't want to say ways of listening, but you're hearing things, but then also, you have other senses that you might be listening to or might not be listening to. And so there's this discrepancy of, one, are you even listening? But also there's listening and then there's hearing. And what are the things you're listening to or hearing? And are you taking in, are you using listening to, people's body language or their head? And are you not listening to kind of what comes out of their mouth or vice versa and all of these things?
Speaking of listening, my 13-year-old just came down and was like, I thought you were done with work already.
He heard you were possibly.
No, I started about 5% listening to you about halfway through that. No, I'm just kidding.
I got 2.5% listening on that.
So what did you in the conversation with Gary start realizing about you were talking about senses? So if you're listening to us, hopefully you've done some access maybe, but you're, oftentimes you have different awarenesses. Like right now, my child is opening his phone, so I'm getting very distracted by the sounds. So you might have heightened senses, right? You have you can hear people's heads, you can hear, all sorts of things all over the place. Mm-hmm. But do you want to talk about how did that conversation with him start helping you listen in a different way?
I wasn't listening. No. Well, I think part of it I've heard before and I wasn't listening to, or because I think that's also part of the difficulty with listening or hearing or just anything in general is we have, when you have your point of view, have already decided what you would want to be done, you don't really listen to anything that is outside of that. Right. So you're, even if you're like, oh, we're doing this, and everyone else is like, no, I don't want to, or your body's like, no, I don't want to, or it's raining, the forecast is saying it's going to be raining, and you're trying to go to the beach, you're not listening to everything. You've already decided what's going on, and and yeah, so it starts to, like, I've been playing with a lot of like, what am I listening to, or am I really listening, and what am I not listening to or not hearing.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love the analogy of like you're like, let's go, and everything is like you're not going, but you've decided you're going. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think for me at least, especially because I've been looking at it again when you were talking about, oh, let's do this live, and I was like, oh well, for me, the why I'm excited for the call is also part of, are you know, are you listening to what people are actually saying, or what you're actually saying, which is also another thing. We don't really listen to what we're saying in some ways. Um, or are you, you know, and it's like, it brings so much, there's so much nuance to this, and it can have such a huge impact in everything, because we
Yeah, I
often
think,
think, go ahead, Megan.
well, I will, where I really struggle is I listen to what comes out of people's mouths, what they're saying, and I
Uh-huh.
think that they're actually going to either do what they say, mean what they say. Like I take things very literally, like, well, you said that, therefore, why would you say it if you didn't mean it? And so what I've had to learn is like to listen actually to their heads. Like, okay, if somebody says, oh, you're my best friend in the entire world, and what they really, that's might be what comes out of their mouth, but what they're really saying is like, I want to stab you. I don't know. I'm being a little dramatic with it, but where things aren't necessarily congruent, I was willing to kind of take what was said more than what I was perceiving was going on behind the words.
Hmm.
Um, but then there's a whole other element that I know that Gary sort of touched on with you, which was like, where then you start kind of like ignoring what people are saying and just listening to what's behind, and it's not really like fully encompassing the entire picture of what's going on,
Hmm. I
which which is
and
just
I
it's
I think so much of it is also, you're not listening. Like, there's so much where listening is, you know, even with you, it's like, you're like, we have lots of, you know, when people say things, okay, we just take it as like the words they say, as if that means the same thing to us. Like, we think, oh,
true.
you say I'm your best friend. Okay, so my best friend means, you know,
Yeah,
oops, get my phone out of the way so I don't have a best friend means blah 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 to you, and you're like, they
yeah,
say best friend, so you were like, okay, that matches all of this, but you're not really listening to, like, wait, what do you mean when you say best friend, or what do you mean when you say this? You know,
yeah,
it's like, I think there's nuances, or I don't even, I want to say it's subtle, but when you actually start doing it, it's not subtle, but we try to pretend that it's not something that's like, can be very clear and ready, if we aren't going do 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 do, I'm listening, not really.
well, it is subtle, but it's also what I found is no one's talking about this. Like Gary Douglas is really the only one that's ever in my entire life pointed out any of this. Like I don't know where you could get this on the planet that you're like, I remember, for example, as you know, um, there was a point in time which he was like, there's this thing called subtext. Like women do subtext, men do.
Hmm.
I don't even know what men do.
They don't do subtext,
They
and
don't do subtext.
yeah.
And so there's like an example in one of the books and different classes of like, when a woman says this, they mean this. When a man says this, they mean this.
Hmm.
And it like blew my world. And he's like, yeah, you don't do subtext. I didn't know that subtext was actually a thing. Like I didn't
Hmm.
even know that this was happening. So it's been like having to learn that, okay, this is this is the way that I am, that it doesn't mean that that's how other people are, but it's like you're saying, like if somebody says, I want to go out to dinner, um, what does that mean for them? Because I go very literal, like it means they'd like to go out to dinner, but it may mean all sorts of other things that I had
Hmm.
never considered.
You're just not listening to what else they were saying.
Yes, I was like, la la la, just hear one little, tone. So I would say that people are the most confusing. Like animals are very clear. Like I talked with Monica yesterday about plants. You
Hmm.
know, it's easier sometimes in that arena.
Well, for me, we often think with animals, it's really easy because there's only like one thing to kind of listen to. There's no like conflicting points of views or like the unspoken things. There's nothing unspoken with animals, but it's like with
Right.
people, there's all these things that are unspoken a lot of times. And so often, since they're not spoken, we don't listen to them as if we can't like hear them.
As if you can't hear them. That's brilliant. Yeah.
And for me, I
Mhm.
think that's been a constant, challenge and
Yeah.
of like, okay, looking back at things. And I mean, there's so many examples where Gary has given us tools of doing this. We have like telecalls that he does with deal and deliver telecalls, right? And
Yeah.
no matter how many times he says it, people still don't really listen to what he says with those things. And for
Right.
those who don't know what deal and deliver telecalls are, basically, he says you ask people what their deal is and what they're willing to deliver and what they don't want to deliver and all of these questions. So you ask them questions, and then based on that, you will get an awareness if you're listening um, about what they would like to do, what they won't like to do, and kind of etc. Not necessarily that they're actually and if you're really listening, you'll start to see whether they mean it or not.
Yeah. It's so true because so many people, even after listening to that, supposedly listening, they think deal and deliver is still, I'm going to give you a deal.
Hmm.
Now you need to deliver. So this topic goes far and wide, people. And with Gary, especially on a 3-part series like this, it'll go wherever, the people choosing it, signing up for it, would like to go. I'm just so excited because I honestly thought it was going to be like one thing, like we were going to kind of like further the conversation that you've been having with him in
Yeah.
classes. Um, Lots of people have been having with him about kind of like the X-Men and how that all works. But then in
Mhm.
one of his last telecalls, he really started talking about how everything is talking to us. Like he talks to jewelry. So like, he was talking about how gold and silver and platinum, like they'll start talking to him. And recently platinum's like, hey, you should buy me. And gold's like, you could sell me and buy more platinum. Like he's willing to like actually hear from all sorts of different places. So we've got pretty much everything's talking. And
Well, yeah,
I'm
and I
just
think there's
how much I'm not listening to.
yeah, and it's well, and I think the hard thing is even just there, I'm like, I can listen to you, but I want to talk. And it's
Yeah.
like we so often want to talk as if that's a way of
I'm tired of talking. You can talk for the rest of the live.
yeah, you've been busy on calls and everything. I just had to talk to my horse today, so they're very
Oh, well, what did your horse have to say?
not a whole bunch. It was really good. I'm preparing. I found out, that I'm signed up. I'm going to Scotland, and
Ooh.
because Grace Douglas is doing an advanced body class there, but I'm also going on a horse ride with my wife, who's done English riding for you know many many years, and I'm signed up as an
Yeah.
English riding course. That's not a beginner course because she's not a beginner, so I'm not a beginner either. And it's like you need to know how to post, and I'm like, do I need to how to post? I'm like, okay, buddy, can we post? Yes. Okay, cool. I'm like, okay, my horse's name is Nim, and I'm like, Nim, can you show me how to post? Yes. I'm like, okay, let's go and practice so I can actually do this. Hopefully. I'm
Oh,
like, but also all of that goes into listening, with asking a question. And
yeah.
I and for me, the other, like you were saying, it's so much broader. It's, we talk about ask and receive. Well, but ask and listen is really close to ask and receive. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
there's so much when you asking things and or even asking questions and we ask and then we don't listen, whether we start talking more or we start demanding or or we ask and then we've already decided people's answer. It's not
Yeah.
that we're really listening.
You're reminding me, I remember when I first met you, like many years ago, lots and lots of years ago.
Yes.
And we went out to lunch or something. Like we were in San Francisco for a 3-day body class, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And we went out to lunch, and I was using Access at that point in my life to just like I was using it, I probably was using it, I don't know, in 50% of my life. Do you know what I mean? Like I wasn't like full on using the tools in every area. And we went out to lunch, and you were like, I opened the menu and you opened the menu. And I was like, oh, I don't know what to get. And you're like, well, ask your body. And I was like, what? Like you actually do that? And then you literally just kept like asking everything, different things. And I was like, oh my God, he's actually using this everywhere. And then it was just, so I wonder how many people out there like have been using the Access tools or getting their bars run or whatever, but really like if you were, like you said, ask and listen, what else would be possible? Even if you just took the next 24 hours, like, okay, I'm going to ask everything and see what shows up.
Well, and I think, one of my favorite, so I was like early on in Access, I had just graduated chiropractic school, and Gary and Dane were coming up with the telecall. I think it was called What If, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, for whatever reason, listening, I was like, I knew I really wanted to do it. I was like, and I also was like, I do not have, I think it was $500. I was like,
yeah,
I'm like trying to get the
spotlight.
I'm like, what is reflecting that screen? Oh, that. All right, figured it out. Got it. I was like, sorry. Maybe it was bothering someone else, and I was just listening to it. But so they have this telecall series called What If, and it was like, I think there was 3 days before it started or something, and I was like, oh man, I'd really like to take this, but I do not have the money. So I remember I was like, okay, well, it's like, what if? I was like, what if I could have the money? Like, what if I could create the money in 3 days? What if it could show up way easier than I expect? What if, like blah, 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 all this stuff, and just asking what else is possible. And then the next day was like when you're in chiropractic school, the last 3 months, which I was in, you can go to another chiropractic office and kind of intern. Basically, you work for free to kind of get some real experience and not be in school, because you're kind of like a lame duck. The last 3 months, you're like already pretty much finished everything anyways. And so I went into the office for the last day, and the chiropractor's like, hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here for 3 months, and he hands me a check for $500.
Wow.
And I was like, and I didn't expect to get anything. I didn't know it was coming. Like, I was just like, oh. I was like, what? Oh, awesome. Okay. So, I deposited that money, signed up for the telecall, paid for the telecall, and was like, oh my God, it actually works. This asking questions and like asking it. And I was like, oh, wow. And it's so funny because I have those experiences, and still it's like there's other areas of my life where it just doesn't seem to seep in with the same like ease or enthusiasm, let's say.
Right. Are you going to say what those areas are? No, I'm just kidding.
Let's focus on listen to the bright things. It's not the dark deep walls, please.
So, I mean, I know that you're great at, asking and listening to bodies, but I think there's other things that you like are not secretly, but, doing behind the scenes. If you don't know, Andrew has like amazing artwork. I'm blown away at your art. And you buy different, every time I see you have some new little something. Mm-hmm. How are you using the asking and listening with those types of things?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's very strange to me, but I just hear buy me and I'm like, okay.
So do you just buy it then? Like, do you ask it if it's going to make you money? Like, is there anything else, or you just buy?
I've gotten to the point where I don't, because also let's talk about Are You Listening? So one of my
Okay.
first, I you know there was like you talk about, you can ask things, oh, if I buy you, will you make me money? And uh, that's one of the questions. And there was one piece of art. It was a photograph by Edward Weston, who's considered like the modern one of the fathers of modern photography, especially in the U.S. He's an American, and it was this, of his kind of wife nude in a doorway. It's a very famous photo, um, and I didn't know anything about it at the time, right? Um, but it was like I had the money to buy it, but I was like, it was also like a lot of money, and I was
Right.
like, and it kept saying buy me, and I was like, oh no, I didn't buy it, and I have not seen it at a better price since, and this is like many many years ago. Like I look for it, and it was also like after I didn't buy it and didn't get to have it or even tried to done it because it was an auction, like I was so kind of disappointed in a way. I was like, like you know how you miss it, you miss it, and then you're like, I fucked up.
Yeah.
Um, and so really after that time, I was like, okay, whenever I get this ping now, when something says buy me and it's like this energy of where it is, I'm not like trying to think about it. I'm not going into like, no, I'm just going to go, yes, okay.
That's really cool.
And I think that's also all of that stuff ties so much into listening.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm really excited for this telecall, because it can go in so many different ways and
Well,
permutations.
and one of the things I spoke with Monica about was like you have your own way of listening, like and oftentimes it's way faster than you think. Like we were talking about plants obviously, and like it wasn't until she came here that I even realized I was listening to my plants. Like I just know when to water them, or you know what I mean? Like I was actually engaging with them in a way that doesn't make sense to anyone else, that you wouldn't, I'm not like today I will talk to plant one, talk to plant two, it's not like this organized thing. But recently I had another moment where I'll just say this. I was driving road trip across from, through Kansas to Colorado, which is really can be quite rough in the summer if there's like weather and tornadoes and everything. And so I get this like hit to look at my phone, and it shows like, tornado warning, blah, 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 whatever. And so I pull off and I'm like, I just have a really weird feeling about this. Like, it's probably nothing, but it's, we could probably make it. We were supposed to go stay at a hotel that was like 2 more hours, but it looked like we were like literally driving into the storm.
Mm-hmm.
But with your phones these days, you can like Google everything and like get all the details. But it was basically like the maps and the weather, everything was like, you'll probably be okay. But I just knew something's not gonna work out with this. So I stayed where I was, and the next morning I woke up and there'd been like all sorts of tornadoes. Like it would have been just,
Yeah,
not that.
it would have been the movie Twister.
Yeah, but I was like, oh, that's so interesting, because it was one of those moments where I almost went against what I was listening, like what I was hearing and what I knew. Like the earth was like, don't come this way, and I was like, for something else that was on my phone that was like, you'll be fine, like I wonder how often we do that too, when it's like, really, if you start tapping into what you know and what's talking to you, especially now when there's so much coming at you with phones and like, I don't even know, stuff everywhere. Yeah, what?
GPS is not my friend. I remember.
Really?
I remember. It was a couple of years ago. I was in Europe with my wife, and we were driving back to Prague, And so we're coming in the main highway, and the GPS, like we're in Germany, so we're probably 3.5 hours outside of Prague, maybe four. And the GPS keeps doing this like glitch and then recalculating, but then putting us on the same route. And we're driving and we're like, what the hell? And it
Going
keeps
in
doing
circles.
that and it keeps doing that. And we drive 2 more hours. And then we get like 2 hours outside of Prague. And we start looking and we realize, oh, there's like a traffic jam. And we're like, okay, but it's not rerouting us anyway or anything. It's like
Yeah.
basically saying there's no other possible routes. And I'm like, oh, and so then we're coming to the traffic jam, and I'm like, I keep hearing, oh, I should get off. I should get off here. But I was like, I don't know which way I'm going. So then I don't get off. I sit in the traffic jam for 40 minutes. And in this wonderful traffic jam while we're sitting, my wife looks up what is the cause of the traffic jam. And apparently there was like a 25 car pileup that occurred at noon. It's now 6 p.m. They're still
Oh my
dealing with it. And so, during the 45 minutes, I made my way over and got off the highway. And then we're getting off the highway, and you can go right or you can go left. And the GPS is telling me to go right. And I'm like, I want to go left. I'm like, go left, go left. I go right because the GPS says go right. I sat in traffic again for another 20 minutes waiting for the cars to move. And I was like, you know what? I'm turning around. And I turned around and go, and my wife's like, what are you doing? The GPS is saying, I was like, I don't care what the GPS is saying. There has to be a road that goes along the highway some way that's not that way, because I'll get lost and keep moving rather than like sitting in any more traffic. Because I was like, and so I just went and I kept going, and then I was like, okay, the highway, is running this way. I'll just take a road that longs alongside of it. Eventually, I'll have to something. So I figured it out, and it was wonderful. But not listening cost me, like another hour and a half, 2 hours of the trip, which was I was like,
I think
oh,
that's a
yes, we have all these things that we think are smarter than us and that we should
yeah.
listen to. And then it's like,
But that's such a great story I mean, how much of that is like how we live our lives? Like the universe and your awareness and everything's like, do this. And you're like, no, 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 this says to do this, you know? So,
yeah,
and then, yeah, you had to pay for it by sitting in traffic, but like there's so many things. Like, I mean, I wonder what we could actually start like not start, but like have more of if we were really to truly start listening. And one of the things I know Gary's been saying forever, but also recently, like when the world is changing so much, like, I don't know, in the US, things are crazy, right? There's like tariffs and price, like, I'm just like, oh my God, am I poor? Do I have, like, there's so much financial insanity going on. There's so much like everything insanity going on. And really the way to like actually have success, I think, is to start listening in ways that you may never have listened before and following the energy.
yeah.
And I'm really bad at it, but I need to get better at it. So
No, I
I got
think.
to do this telecall.
Well, I also think that and this is one of the reasons I'm excited. I also think there's, which goes me back to the conversation I had with Gary. We're listening to the loudest thing as if that's the
Yeah.
most relevant thing, and
Yes.
and so I also think hopefully we'll get into it when the telecall, or maybe I'll ask him to make sure he goes there.
Yeah,
Is
you got
like
to.
and I think that's also it's also something from this conversation that I've been working on is where you hear things or you're listening to things and you make them relevant when they're not really relevant, or they're not the most important thing. They're not the priority. Like, okay, the GPS says I can go this way, but are there other ways?
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think that applies to everything else in your life too.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Well, we could talk for hours, I'm sure. I don't know if anyone would listen any more than they already have, if they have at all.
We
We'll
had some
see.
listeners. People were saying hello.
Yeah. So if you are interested in finding out where this three-part adventure with Mr. Douglas will go, we start August 8th, which is in like 2 days from now. And there's so much more that he has coming up as well. So he's got a telecall coming up on the advanced exploration to create the life you would really like. And that's a 5-parter. He's been doing a couple of 5 parts, which are very intense. They're wonderfully intense. And then he's doing a class on platforms that's going to be online and at the ranch. And there's a new video coming out from him about that, just saying. And there's more. There's just so much more.
There's him and Grace are doing a telecall together too. That's
yes. Do you remember the title that is a facilitation in itself?
Oh no, it's something about.
I have it.
Are you making are you making the abuse personal or something? What is it?
Yes.
What if you didn't make abuse personal or?
And why? It's something like there's a dig right afterwards that now I can't remember, and then it's like, and why are you choosing that or something? Hold on, I'm almost there.
I'm almost there in our chats too. I'm like looking.
This is what happens with Gary is he comes up with a title and then it facilitates you every time you read it. What is your personal form of abuse and why do you think you need it?
Yes. Lovely. That's just like, sometimes you just read the title and you're like, I don't need, I don't know if I want to go any further.
Yeah. And then like this one, Are You Listening? You can tell there's so much, like people are like, what? Exactly. Exactly. So come play if you'd like. You can go to accessconsciousness.com/telecalls. Andrew's going to ask at least one question.
Maybe I'm just going to be listening.
On that note, thank you, Andrew, for joining me. It's wonderful.
Thank you, Megan.
And thanks, everyone. And we'll see you somewhere, either on Zoom or in person soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.